Powerscaling One Piece, one day at a time, I don't even know at this point. Well, usually I make these shorts, YouTube shorts. This calculation is so massive that I had to make it an actual video. And the feat I'm talking about is Dracule Mihawk slicing Don Kreigs' ship in half. Twice. Hello Internet, Jojo here. And if you've been keeping up with my YouTube shorts, and I don't know why you wouldn't, I've been going through One Piece every day and calculating One Piece as I read through it. Now, some days I'll do just one chapter, and other days I'll do multiple chapters, especially when there are days that have nothing in them. It gets a bit annoying after a while. And this feat was just so big, I couldn't fit it into a 60-second short. And while I say big, I really should be saying complicated, because it is way too complicated for its own good. But that said, let's just get into this. I don't want to waste any more time. The entire foundation of this feat and its hype is the scale that this feat is on, the size of everything. So to start this off, we have to know how big everything is. Now, for a while, we had no idea how big a lot of this stuff was. Specifically, the Going Merry. Then, a Beaver card came out. The Going Merry's Beaver card, specifically. Now, if you don't know, Beaver cards are basically a different version of data books. They are official information in card form. You can collect them all, baseball cards. They're data book baseball cards. And on that card, we found out the Going Merry's official canon size, which is wonderful for me specifically. And so, taking these images, we can compare the Going Merry to the Baratier, and then the Baratier in a different panel to the width of the ship and this tooth. We'll need all this later. So because the Going Merry is 1,300 centimeters in length, about 13 meters in length, the Baratier comes to be about 41 meters in height. Comparing that to the ship, and Don Kreigs' ship is almost twice the height of the Baratier. Now, comparing the Baratier to this tooth, which yet again we will need in a minute, this tooth is about 9 meters. That's insane. You actually start thinking about this. This is massive. This is huge. And because we know this tooth is length, we can compare it in this image to all these nice slices of ship. I pixel scaled everything he cut. I pixel measured and calculated. Okay, so let's just get this started. This rail here is about 16.6 pixels by 12.2, or the equivalent of 276 centimeters by 203 centimeters, meaning it has an area of about 56,000 centimeters squared. This steel decoration here, which there are 4 of them, is about 116 centimeters by 95 centimeters, giving it an area of 11,100. Or because there are 4 of them, 44,400. This horizontal steel plate, which I'm assuming we only see about half of it, because it stops right about halfway, and so we'll be doubling it, and because there are 2 plates, we'll be doubling it again, so multiplying this number by 4, we'll get our result for that cut. But in short, these 2 plates have a sliced area of 443,000 square centimeters. Alright, moving on to the wood that got cut, specifically these 5 floors. So one floor is about 10 pixels, or about 1 meter and 66 centimeters. 1.5 meter floor. That's almost the height of Luffy. These floors are Luffy thick. They're Luffy thick. I guess closer to Nami thick, honestly. But they're... This shouldn't work. This shouldn't add up, but the scaling is so wonky here. It feels wrong, but the math lines up, and I hate that. I just hate that. There should be way more than 5 floors here. These floors should be much smaller, but I am not going to question this because the math works. Anyway, these 5 floors with a height of 1.66 meters, multiplied by the width of the ship that we calculated earlier, about 71 meters, and we have an area for all 5 floors of about 6,185,000 square centimeters. That's just the floors. Now we come to the outer part of the wood, the hull. So this is where we get a bit wonky, a bit weird. So by scaling the most rounded part of the ship to that of a circle, and finding the circumference of that, and then adding on the more straight area along the up and down sides, and adding that to that, we find the entire arc of the ship's hull is about 11,650 centimeters. These are not square centimeters, these are just regular centimeters. Now, the thickness of the hull is about 203 centimeters. So multiplying those two together, we find that the whole area that got cut is about 3,500,000 square centimeters. Meaning that in total, the wood that Mihawk cut comes to be 970 square meters, whereas the steel that Mihawk cut comes to be about 60 square meters. Now, I think I calculated this before in a different video. I think I did. It was a long time ago. The numbers I got were very different, much different method, but this is where we are at. So almost 1,000 square meters of wood that got cut and 60 square meters of steel that got cut. Now, I will say, if I made a mistake in this math, please forgive me, because this is so complicated and so many pixel measurements and adding and subtracting that I might have made a mistake. I hope I didn't. I don't think I did, but if I did, feel free to double check my math. But right now, this is what we're going with. So wood has a strength of about 9 megapascals. 9 to 10, it goes back and forth. It's wood, not very standardized. But we'll go with 9. So multiplying the 9 megapascals by the centimeter squared,
87 million newtons of force to cut the wood.
We find that Mihawk produced about 87 million newtons of force to cut the wood. And to cut this much steel, Mihawk produced about 260 million newtons of force. Yet again, the contrast between these numbers is absolutely massive. So adding these two numbers together, we find that Mihawk's cut was worth about 330 million newtons of force. But that's not all, because of course that's not all. Mihawk's cut also lifted this boat into the air. Now I've got to calculate the weight of this boat.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
Which luckily wasn't that difficult, or not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. So, displacement. Boats displace water according to the boat's weight. And there's a whole, they float because the area is displaced over, but important part is the weight that is displaced. So, by taking the amount of water this boat displaced, which going back to this panel, we can kind of calculate that the amount of boat that's underwater multiplied by the length of the boat will give us a general volume where the water should be and where it is not, because there is a boat there. So doing that, we find the weight that this boat displaced is about 99 million kilograms, which I'll buy that. And to be fair, most galleon ships weigh somewhere around 1,000 tons. So this isn't that insane of an assumption, considering the size is much different. But now that we know the weight, we need to know how high and how fast the boat was lifted into the air by his cut. We're going to be a little fast and loose with this because there's just no way to actually get specific, because in both the manga and the anime, you just don't see a whole lot of it. But we're going to assume that the boat was lifted out of the water and then another length. So the length it was in the water doubled. So it came out of the water, then went that height again. So essentially, it got raised about 31 meters into the air in about 6 seconds, putting it at a speed of 11 miles per hour, which is not impressive whatsoever. But the kinetic energy and acceleration and all that garbage would yield a power of about 0.6 of a ton of TNT. That's just what happens when this happens. Okay. I'm starting to bore myself. Now, displacing the force that was required to cut the boat by the distance the force was pushed through the displacement, which is the width of the ship, because Mihawk most likely cut and the force of the wave pushed through it, not like down, it went more horizontal rather than vertical. And we found that one of these cuts that Mihawk did was worth over 6 tons of TNT. Adding the kinetic energy to lift the boat, the energy to cut the boat, both cuts, I'm just going to assume he did both these cuts in one go because I don't want to assume otherwise. This one attack generated a power of 12.9 tons of TNT. And it's not even more powerful than the buggy balls. So yeah, there we are, guys. Top tier feat, not even more powerful than an explosion. But I will say, explosions tend to be overpowered at first. Explosions are very strong in the early stages of a series. But there comes a point where you reach a cap for explosions and they're just at much further than that and just egregiously stupid. And that's about mid to upper gigaton range. Generally they max out at the low gigaton range, simply because explosions past that and you just lose all context. So there is a very short shelf life for explosions, whereas other feats sky splitting, throwing heavy rocks very fast. Those build up crazy kinetic energy. But explosions, there is a fast drop off. Generally, even explosions that can be seen from space are only like 1 or 2 teratons of TNT. Whereas you can move an object really fast and get the same result much simpler. So there is a very steep drop off that I expect very soon. That being said, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this was kind of tedious, but this video needed to get done. This needed to be done right. And it was too long to fit in a short. Now, to be fair, if I've done my editing correctly, I've already put this video into a short much shorter than this. Probably cutting out all the hair pulling out parts. But that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Remember to stay spectacular. JoJo out.